briefly, Mission Karamyogi, as we all know, is the largest capacity building initiative anywhere in the world. We have Mr. Pankaj Bansal, who is the CEO Strong, as also a board member of Karamyogi Bharat, and he has been actively involved in helping shape up the roadmap of I Got Karamyogi, who will be here, who will be sharing his insights. What Mission Karamyogi does is that it seeks to move to a role-based governance from a rule-based governance, and it would ensure efficient and effective public service delivery. We already have a I Got Karamyogi platform, which has been built. It's launched in the beta stage in the last few months. We have almost 350,000 users on that platform, almost 360 courses, and we are seeing that enough government servants, especially the new government servants, are joining the platform, learning it, and acquiring skills based on the roles that they have to fill in the government. It's also available on a mobile app, both on Android and iOS, which is facilitating anywhere, anytime learning at scale. And we work very closely with training institutions, the central training institutions, in ATIs. Today, many of the ATIs, CTIs have joined in, who will also be giving their ideas and suggestions. And ultimately, Mission Karamyogi seeks to bring in the best of content that might be available within the government or from the private sector, make it available to all civil servants, and ensure that our civil service becomes as professional as anywhere else. The other announcement which Honorable Finance Minister made was the 3 centers for excellence. She mentioned healthcare, agriculture, and sustainable cities. And the idea is to kind of incubate startups, incubate research companies, which will benefit from the research that is being done in artificial intelligence. These COEs will work closely with industry and academic institutions, will work on a sustainable model, will ensure that they create value for their ecosystem, and they would help us in creating AI solutions which can solve societal problems at scale. We have Dr. Geeta Manjunath, who will be sharing more about it. Her own initiative with MeitY has kind of shown what can be done. But there are AI applications in the field of agriculture, in the field of sustainable cities, manufacturing, skilling, education, which will help how we can transform services. The idea is that the 3 COEs will be set up, which can be anchored in industry, in academia. Look forward to getting your advice. What will be the best model to go ahead and doing this? In what ways government can partner with industry and startups in establishing these COEs, which can become world-class models for research and for developing applied AI solutions. Then the National Data Governance Policy, which this has been talked about for a long time. Our data privacy bill is in the parliament, and hopefully it will become a law very soon. But along with that, ensuring seamless data sharing between government to government and government to citizen data sharing. Because even government to government, we sometimes realize that the data which one department has is not always available to some other government department. But can we transform services doing that? Can we ensure that suppose we have the data of Manrega beneficiaries in rural development department, and if that data about those beneficiaries with the consent of citizens is made available to, for example, Ministry of Health, can then Ministry of Health offer Ayushman Bharat health cards or health insurance to all those who are needy? Can we eliminate the need for citizens to apply for services? Can we enable data-based decision making? Can we enable data-based sharing of services in order to ensure that proactive service delivery happens, so that citizens are able to get services based on what they are entitled for, based on their eligibility, based on their profile, and based on their willingness to get a service? Can we enable that? So this seeks to establish a data management office, which will ensure that seamless data sharing happens, anonymization of data happens. Then data platform is being set up, which will ensure that data can be discovered, data can be shared, and the capacity building of various government departments is also a very, very important part of this plan. Then, of course, then the other announcement that we had was with regard to digilocker, expanding the scope of digilocker and trying to build up an address update facility, because this is a challenge that many of us face, especially those who move locations. And whenever you move locations, you are required to update your address, do your KYCs at multiple forums. So the idea is the idea on which we are working on, and I'm sure we will have industry experts who are here today who will give us some advice, some suggestions go about doing it, how to make it more efficient. The idea is that all databases which are seeded with Aadhaar, if the Aadhaar address is updated in Aadhaar, and if a citizen so wishes to, if he gives his consent that yes, my income tax record or my bank account is also seeded with Aadhaar, and I would want that same address to shown up in various documents, done. It can be done the purely consent-based service initiated by the user only for those who desire and not a mandatory service. So that's the idea on which we are working on. We look forward to getting your advice, your suggestions. And then, of course, the fintech services, like the finance minister also announced at para 71 that how can we use digilocker to expand the financial services. So today we have digilocker documents like the educational certificates, Aadhaar card, PAN card, driving license, EPFO statements, bank statements are also, and academic certificates are part of digilocker. But can we extend it to getting the passport, getting the voter ID card, getting the CIBIL scores, demat account statements, income tax returns, property documents, all of it? Can we bring them onto the digilocker ecosystem? So if we are able to do that, then digilocker also allows for consent-based verification, authentication of documents. And one discussions we have been having in the rural development department is that the Manrega job cards, because very often we have we spend almost 150,000 crores on Manrega scheme, and many of these poor people who get almost 100 days of labor, which is equivalent to 30,000 rupees of income in a year, granted by law, but they don't have a salary certificate, they don't have a document through which they can prove to a financial institution that yes, they have an income of 30,000 rupees. But if the job cards become digital, they become the part of the digilocker, and we are able to verify that information in a digital interface through APIs, then that can help them access microfinance loans from MFIs and all, and that can really unlock a lot of value. The similar ideas are there, and we look forward to hearing from you, from the experts, and from those who have joined this panel, this webinar today, in what other documents can be made the part of digilocker and how we can expand the scope of digilocker in order to have more financial services, the value-added services. Then, of course, the entity digilocker, about which Prime Minister also spoke, and the Finance Minister has mentioned that the same services which the citizens are going to access, can we kind of enable safe and secure document storage, a document vault for companies, for businesses, for enterprises, for charitable organizations, for non-profits, and can we enable a system in which they can meet the compliance requirements with various entities by enabling consent-based sharing of documents. So, for example, if ROC has to verify income tax returns, then instead of uploading a PDF or uploading a document, we can enable API-based verification of documents which are there in the entity digilocker. So there can be several use cases in this area also. Very often we keep on get public documents from one authority and keep on submitting to other authority. So reducing this hardship, reducing the cost of compliance, reducing the time it takes to verify documents in various registries, whether it's MCA 21 or any other government entity, is what the intention of building the entity digilocker is. And again, we look forward to hearing from all of you in what ways we should do that, in what ways it can add value, in what ways we can go ahead and build that. So these are some of the ideas that I wanted to share with regard to the specific budget announcements. There are lots more to talk about in the digital space, but I am limiting myself to the topics discussed in the budget, which are in the realm of this webinar for ease of living using technology. So with that, I will go ahead to our panelists one after one, one by one, and to those who have joined the webinar, if you have any questions and answers, if you have any questions that you want to put forward to the panelists, please feel free to put that in the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will take it up once the panelists have made the opening statement. So with this, I would like to welcome Mr. Pankaj Bansal, who is the co-founder and group CEO of People Strong, and he is also a board member of Karamyogi Bharat, and he has been working for a long time for transforming the world of work and HR tech. He is an entrepreneur at heart. Pankaj believes in the power of work capital, that is deploying capital to give meaning and access to work. And I have personally, and our team has personally been benefited with our interactions with him in Karamyogi Bharat. And I would request Pankaj to deliberate on ease of living through technology, especially in light of the announcements that we made for Karamyogi, and in what ways we can transform governance to make life easier for citizens. Over to you, Pankaj.
Namaste, Abhishek. Thank you, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thank you so much to my industry colleagues that I see on the screen, to the government of India, senior officers on the call, our educational institutions who I can see on the call as well, and the industry bodies and all the panelists and the members here. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be present here and representing Karamyogi Bharat. Today I wear that hat as Prime Minister mentioned. I was delighted to hear him and his vision for this. And of course, Finance Minister made our day, month or year when she mentioned about this in the budget speech. This also signifies the importance that Karamyogi Bharat has been given. We all see two sides of the spectrum, one side where we have the civil society and the other side where we have civil servants who are serving this society. I think Prime Minister said this beautifully. If we have to improve the citizen services, we'll have to enable civil services officers. And when I say civil servant officers, we are referring to the karamyogis. We are referring them at karamyogis. It can be a postman, post lady. It can be a railway person. It can be any government official that we deal in day to day. How do we improve their lives, their capability, their performance, so that all of us as citizens feel a better services have been given to us? With that intention, Karamyogi Bharat came into existence, and Abhishek, being the CEO there, understand the importance and the drives that being done. I want to just take a couple of minutes in telling you what we are attempting to do by using technology so that it improves the ease of living. We are looking at three elements of growth. If you look at private sector is known for case studies, right? We all talk of learning technology that we provide to our employees. But we all will be delighted as Indians to see that what India is doing at a scale, at a level where we will call this public infrastructure, public digital infrastructure, a case study, like how UPI transformed the fintech industry. We are very sure that capacity building will be discussed always in reference to iGOT. iGOT is nothing but an integrated government online training platform, a platform which will address three things, friends. Thing number one, it will take the best content available in India from our ancient civilization till date. Can we take and accumulate all the learning available and also the global content that is available? Our ministries, departments and organizations, MDOs, have huge repository of content. We have our institutions, the IIMs, the Symbiosis, there's so many of them which are working towards it. We have industry bodies who are sanchit jise hum kehte hain. Their sanchay of all that content will be available on that platform. That's one vector of iGOT. The whole platform will have that. Second aspect is platform itself. The technology is being designed on cloud in such a way, as of now it's in beta, that it will be the wonderful experience available on mobile with all the content and assessment facilities available. So that's the second vector. And third vector is that when a civil servant look at his or her performance, how do we enable that? So we have given them the content, we have given them a platform. How do we make sure that their performance is improved? That is only possible if we have the right kind of competency system. And the competency framework, which will have the skills directories, skill dictionaries. As Prime Minister mentioned, how do we keep the content updated? You may have heard him today morning when he was speaking. He said, can we keep the content always updated? Can we take the feedback? So those feedbacks and systems which will help a civil servant to constantly improve their performance. And they carry that performance in a form of a passport. It's a competency passbook where they can say, okay, I have an expertise in this particular field. So I repeat, friends, the content that is being brought into the platform. Second, the platform, which is very modern, new age, mobile, new experience kind of a platform. And third, having the right kind of competency, skill, and assessment framework. All these three put together will enable millions of our civil servants in every kind of MDO, as we call it, to create a new Bharat, to create an Atmanirbhar Bharat towards a Vishwa Guru Bharat. So this is all I can say. I can go on, and I hope this initiative will delight all of us as citizens. We see our civil servants moving to the next level of competency and framework. Thank you very much, and please contribute, share your ideas, share your content, suggestions with all of us. And Abhishek is at the right chair. He's helping and driving this whole agenda. So back to you, Abhishek, and wonderful again. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you, Pankaj. That was really insightful, and I am sure with your experience and expertise and your idea that you just shared, and together we can really transform the way we look at civil services, the way we build capacities, and the way we ensure that the government actually becomes working for the people and ensuring that we are able to meet the expectations that our Honorable Prime Minister has from all of us. So thank you once again. We move on to now, as we all mentioned, like how in the budget speech, Honorable Finance Minister and Honorable Prime Minister also mentioned about how digilocker and how KYC can be simplified, how we can ensure the expansion of ensuring technology for sharing of documents, ensuring easier KYC, expanding to fintech services. So all that, we have none other than Mr. Nitin Kamath, who has built Zerodha, and which is a true unicorn, which has like transformed the way we financial services. And one of those startups, one of those unicorns, one of those companies which has established itself as a profit-making company without any external funding. So Zerodha is a role model when it comes to looking at how to scale tech-enabled companies. So Nitin is the founder and chief executive officer of Zerodha. He began trading, I'm told he began trading stocks when he was introduced to the markets by his friends at the age of just 17. And today, I'm sure when I look at my teenage son, and who also says that Zerodha pe account kholo, so then it shows that what transformation he has brought out in the entire financial sector. And Zerodha is also one of the partners with DigiLocker. We are proud to have them. So we have Nitin Kamath, who would share his insights into what all we can do by using technology, and what all government can do for expanding this further.
Thanks a lot, Abhishek, for the kind words. A key tipping point in our journey of Zerodha was 2016, when we could onboard customers online, right? Because until 2016, a customer who wanted to open an account with us had to, sign a 40-page document, and it used to take anywhere between 15 to 20 days before we could, get a customer open an account with us. So as you can imagine, the first 6 years of our business, we had opened around 60,000, customer accounts. And then 2016 happened, when we could start using Aadhaar, digilocker, for onboarding customers online. So in the next 6 years, we've gone from 60,000 customers to like 1.1 crore customers, right? And while, of course, there is a bull market in India, we've had all the right products at the right time. But I don't think any of this would have happened if not for, just the ability to be able to open customer accounts online. The ability also gave us more time and focus on helping improve the product, think about financial education. Otherwise, traditionally, if you look at the traditional incumbent financial services firms, most of their time and effort is just on how do you onboard a customer, right? Set up branches, hire relationship managers. So the focus moves away from the product, and which is really the core of what builds a business, to think about everything else. So we wouldn't be here for sure, if not for DigiLocker, Aadhaar, UPI, etc. So firstly, thanks to the government, for enabling all of this. So when you said what can the government do, I think government can at best enable, right? I think the onus is on all of us in the private, all of us private players to go and actually do it, right? And as long as government can keep enabling by putting these, to levers on which businesses can expand, grow at scale. I think that's really, what is the expectation of the government. I mean, I was looking at your presentation. I had no clue that very soon ITR, bank statements, etc., will be available on DigiLocker, because one of the big pain points for the financial services industry is around PMLA, KYC, etc. And just to be able to say if the person who is transacting has the wherewithal to be able to transact as much. Like, if say a customer comes on board at Zerodha and say he invests for 10 lakh rupees, today it's almost impossible for us to say, does he really have 10 lakh rupees to invest, right? Now, if you had access to these income tax reports, the bank statement, etc., now we can start mapping out that small piece of problem that we've been trying to solve for. Because the only other way to do it today is to ask a customer for a soft copy of it, right? And anyone who's got a malified intent can very easily change that the copy to seem whatever it is. So one is that. The second thing, which has been a big problem in India, was India has been a very distributor first kind of a business model. So if you walk into a bank, you'll be sold a financial product. The insurance agent will sell a financial product. There's nothing wrong with it, but the only problem here is most of it is distributor first, which means the person selling it makes money from the manufacturer. In India, only for a population of 1.5 billion, we have only around 1,000 advisors, right? And one of the reasons the advisory community in India, advisors are who don't make any money from the manufacturer, but they charge an advisory fees. which is a much cleaner way of selling financial product. One of the reasons why I think advisory has never picked up in India is because to be able to advise anyone, you need to have access to all the data points. Like, if you go to a doctor will get you to do a bunch of tests and then he will recommend whatever medicines. But for an advisor to be able to collect all the financial information of a customer is almost impossible. Most people don't even share because it's just cumbersome to share. Now, whatever you just shared in your presentation, it seems like, very soon we will be able to kind of plug onto the account, onto the digilocker ecosystem and get access to everything, which will allow advisors to be able to kind of offer advisory at scale at low cost. So it's very exciting, to be around, building businesses around these times. So thanks a lot. I mean, like I said, I don't think, there's no expectation from the government other than what you're already doing, which is to give us all these levers on which to build the business on.
Thank you, Nitin. And as I mentioned, like we already have tie-ups with State Bank of India for getting the bank statements 26 AS. So ultimately, the idea is that if DigiLocker can have access to such documents, like we already have insurance and academic certificates, and if we can allow XML-based, API-based verification of the content that's there on a document, which should by a authorized entity, then it's much better than getting a PDF uploaded or getting a paper certificate attested, notarized by anyone, because all of it can be forged. But if I am getting a document from the source entity, and if I'm enabling electronic verification, it can really be transformational. The account aggregator framework seeks to do something similar. But yes, DigiLocker being a public entity, and if it allows that, we really work together and create a lot of value. And with the innovators like you, the value-added services will be there, but citizens will benefit ultimately. So whether it's health records becoming part of the Ayushman Bharat Health Mission or academic records, it's really, really transforming the way we look at things. In fact, we also have been like working on a similar model with EPFO, where we can allow verification of documents. For academic certificates, we have experimented verifying academic records for recruitments. Like in Karnataka, it happened. The Karnataka police was doing recruitments of constables, and they wanted to verify the class 10th and 12th mark sheets. Earlier in the manual system, it used to take almost 6 months. With API-based verification with DigiLocker, they were able to do it in a very short time, and they were able to cut down almost 4 months from their recruitment cycle. So as we go ahead, background checks, which takes a lot of time and money. So there will be a use case for providing these services at a cost also, so that the entire initiative becomes a sustainable initiative. So that's something that we look forward to building in, but I'm sure with the experts like you, you can advise us how to build it, how to scale it, how to make it more useful for citizens. So with that, another big announcement in the budget was with regard to, of course, data governance framework policy. And we have with us Shrikant who is the co-founder of Fractal, who has been working very closely with the industry, with our groups, in trying to define what are the issues which are there when it comes to unlocking the value of data that we have. Government is the custodian of a lot of data in various sectors. If this data is made available on the open data portal, or we create a framework in which anonymized, privacy protected data is kind of made available for building solutions, for doing research, and especially for doing AI-based solutions, it can really, really unlock a lot of value. So Shrikant did work with us for mapping the data governance roadmap, and we are very happy to have him here with us today. So Shrikant, as we all know, is the co-founder, group chief executive vice chairman of Fractal, one of the leading players in artificial intelligence and digital transformation. Shrikant is a member of the NASSCOM Executive Council, where he's a subject matter expert on data and AI. So we look forward to hearing from Shrikant Velamkani with regard to what he thinks of the budget announcements, how we can fast forward it, how we can implement it, and how we can together work for creating more value for the citizens.
Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you for the guests here. As you know, data and AI are very, very strongly related. India soon, in the next 1 month or a couple of months, will be the largest country in the world by population. And we will be adding 1 million people to our workforce every year. So given that context, what we can do to enable better citizen services through data, better use of the data in driving better applications can be game-changing, not just for India, but for the whole world. So in the last 1 year, Abhishek, thank you for the opportunity to work with you on the Open Government Data Project. One of the things that we did in that was to identify what is the current scope of data that is being released, that is being opened up, and how do we make it easier for 3 different kinds of stakeholders. When it comes to data, there are publishers of data, which is all the government offices that have access to this data. The government of India has enormous amounts of data. It's mind-boggling to any individual to understand how much, given all the departments, all the various ways in which data is collected. It's mind-boggling. A lot of it is non-personal data, but it is incredibly useful data. So getting that across to citizens is not an easy task. That is a publishers of the data. Look at the citizens or the consumers of data, which is as individuals, as businesses, as startups, we can leverage this data to improve various kinds of products, services, lives of people, etc. And then there is in between lies the team that's actually making this happen, right? To get this data and make sure that it's smoothly accessible to all the users users and people who can build applications on top of that. So we thought of all of these 3 stakeholders, and net of it is, just to give you an example, the City of London created this thing. They released all of the transportation data. The idea was to increase the journey reliability of a London commuter. So this one application, this one sort of release of data resulted in 700 different apps being created. And now almost 1 in 2 Londoners uses an app that is powered by the open data that the City of London created. And it has made a difference in the journey reliability of the London commuter. How reliable is my journey? This is what affects every individual, every citizen of our country as well. So as we think about opening up the data, the kind of recommendations that we came up with was there is a lot more data that we can now release, considering that what is defined as machine readable a few years ago to today, there's a vast difference. Machines can literally read any data. So we can expose much more of the data. 2, we may have to prioritize though, that these are the kinds of data that have the maximum use cases possible. So let's make a very reliable service to get this data out to applications, to startups, individuals, and so on. So take a 90-10 approach, right? 90% of the value is in 10% of the data, and make sure that 10% of the data is really, we call them high value data sets. Release those data sets to in a much more organized, much more stable, much more industrial way. And third was about making sure that even for publishers of the data, just make their life easy by automating all of that process of where the data is produced to when it is released. So these are some of the kinds of sort of recommendations we made. There are a vast number of recommendations, but just to give you a highlight. But once we unleash the data of India, and you all have obviously been seeing what's been happening in the AI space in the last 3-4 months. Almost everyone on this call, I'm sure, has used ChatGPT or other kinds of generative AI technologies. And many of what has happened in the last 1 or 2 years, especially in the last 3-4 months, as seen by is that now we are able to process a lot more of the data and extract knowledge from it. And if you look at the knowledge tradition of our country, right from the spoken word to the written word, to the printing press, then to the computer revolution and data storage revolution, we have been capturing knowledge of the world into various kinds of sources. Now, all of that knowledge is available somewhere. And now AI has become good enough to learn from all that knowledge and help us answer questions, help us create new stuff, etc., and make our lives easier. So given that situation, the value of data has only increased further. Now, coming to the last point on the centers of excellence, I know the key focus areas for centers of excellence are healthcare, smart cities, sustainable cities, and agriculture. And to take one example, these are important to the ordinary life of ordinary citizens of our country. So taking an example of healthcare. Today, we have a huge problem of access to healthcare, access to doctors, because we don't have sufficient number of doctors. India is uniquely positioned because we don't have sufficient number of doctors. So AI can come in very handily in increasing the productivity of the doctors. Take an example of tuberculosis. If we can identify tuberculosis in just a chest X-ray, we can dramatically improve how quickly we can diagnose and therefore put people on a drug regimen. And this can be done without the need for a radiologist, because most radiologists will, you don't have enough radiologists in our country. So doing something like that can make a big difference. So I would suggest that in terms of AI centers of excellence, yes, it is important that we set up these centers of excellences in areas of applications like healthcare, sustainable cities and agriculture. But I also believe that considering the vast amounts of data that we have and considering how good AI has become, we must also spend some capital and some research dollars on how to leverage all of the data in multiple languages. India has a rich tradition of 25 different, official languages and many official, unofficial languages. Can we extract all this data and build large language models of the sort for India? So maybe part of it developing on specific data sets of India and building models for India, and then part of it on solving specific use cases around health, sustainable cities, and agriculture. That would be this kind of vision that I have for how to leverage these centers of excellence on AI. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Shrikant. That was really insightful, and what you mentioned makes a lot of sense for a country like India, like leveraging language technologies, using AI on language models, leveraging things like ChatGPT can really transform the way we citizens access services in India. Because very often we say that India is one of the countries with the largest number of people connected to the internet. We always say that 874 million people are connected to the internet. But at the same time, when we say that, we also realize that there are almost 500 million people who are not connected to the internet. And in order to bring them the last 500 million, the last 500 million, we may need to have more and more services in Indian languages, more and more voice-enabled services, so that just like we talk to our Alexas and Siris, we should be able to talk in Indian languages with voice and access services. Some initiatives have been done. The Bhashini project, of course, after we hear from Geeta and Sarika, will come to some such thoughts. Like the Bhashini project has already enabled some of these APIs. The POC that they did with ChatGPT made a lot of news, and it came in media also, like how citizens can talk on a WhatsApp interface using the Bhashini APIs and ask for various services. So what all can be done, we will come back in the next round. But right now, I will go to, since you have mentioned about artificial intelligence and about healthcare, we have none other than Dr. Geeta Manjunath, the CEO of MeitY, who has pioneered one of the first such interventions, which has helped in detecting breast cancer and has made a lot of impact all over. So we have Dr. Geeta Manjunath, who is the founder, CEO, and CTO of MeitY Health Analytics. She has led the company to have a breakthrough AI solution for detecting early stage breast cancer in a non-invasive, radiation-free manner. She also has got almost 16 patents from the United States in her name, and having already implemented healthcare solutions, look forward to hearing from you what she thinks about the budget announcements on setting up 3 centers of excellence in AI, and what all we can do together with the industry in putting forward the AI story for India. So over to you, Dr. Geeta.
Sure. Thank you very much, Abhishek. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel. And also, I'm pretty surprised and thrilled that a topic like use of technology to make life of people easy has become such an important topic for the government, being discussed at the budget level, the finance minister talking about it, the PM talking about it. I really feel India is now on a real takeoff mode, right? To use technology for making the life of people really good and happy. Just like we just went to the mobile usage era, jumping the PC era, right? I think we are going to be leaders in the AI and data related applications. So I also want to comment on the change I have seen when I interact with government people, right? And I really see the other side, like the people who are evaluating the processes or adding more features to the processes, for example, in the GEM portal and so on. I was very surprised to see the level of good competency, technical competency in the people. And so I feel it's good to have this discussion, and I am confident that whatever we discuss today will actually be implemented well. So let me now talk about the AI and AI for all. And I really like the way she said make AI work for India, right? As a practitioner, as I mentioned, we developed this breast cancer screening technology using AI on thermal imaging, making it much more affordable for everyone, and also making it useful for urban population by improving the productivity of radiologists, and make it available as a solution for places where radiologists are not available, like Shrikant was mentioning for TB. Now, obviously, there is a huge, I would say, healthcare divide and healthcare infrastructure divide that needs to be bridged. And AI is definitely one of the technologies that can very easily bridge this gap of lack of expertise to cater to, I think, 1.4 billion people that we have in India. So how do we enable this high quality healthcare equitably across all economic strata, all geographies in an affordable manner? Make things like what we are doing for breast screening, right? We could have low cost screening technology made available to the government so that the government can now implement these screenings at every primary healthcare center, like it almost like free of cost, with the budget used for enabling the screening, so that we move from wellness, illness mode to the wellness mode, right? Preventative screening, prevention is better than cure. So how do we enable low cost screening for multiple types of cancer or many other diseases that we talk about at the village level? So it increases the access. And we can do that with robo doctors, if you will, AI-enabled, solutions for different diseases that can at least do the triage in an autonomous manner. Again, it is possible, and we have done that very efficiently and effectively for breast screening. And I feel it is definitely doable for India. And I'm happy to share that looking at this, now other countries, especially in Southeast Asia, like Philippines, Thailand, have invited us, and then we have now launched it in those places as well. So India can become a leader in developing these kind of affordable solutions for enabling high quality healthcare. Now, while I'm very excited about all the things that were said about establishing leading educational institutions, tying up with industry academia, I'm also slightly apprehensive, and I'm a little bit of, I just make sure, we have a buffer in place for any risk that we are foreseeing, right? So I just want to call out a few things that, I think the government has to take care while rolling this out at a global multi-educational and different type of I think hub and spoke models and so on were talked about. Because students are students, right? So any data that is, shared by the government, first of all, how I think we talked about data governments, but it's very, very important that whatever application is developed, right, is developed using data in the right form. Because if the training of the AI models are not done, or there is a bias built in the training phase, then the results also are going to be really not appropriate. So how do we ensure that there is a good data governance? Obviously, sharing anonymous data and all of that is definitely part of it. But in addition, I feel there should be some kind of AI algorithm certification methodology, testing certification, verification, some kind of AI product life cycle that has to be established and ensured that is followed if any of these research activities are leading to some kind of products, right? Like I think they have, the government has started doing something in ABDM, like certifications, like whether a startup or a company is certified to be going on an ABDM platform, right? Something similar, right? If an AI algorithm has to be released to the public, it has to go through a kind of a certification process, I feel. For example, we can get very excited about, training on the online and so on and so forth, right? But if you go on training with whatever data, new data it's coming, then actually your old accuracy may get shifted. So there are what are called as locked models, and how exactly you will do the retraining. FDA, for example, has established some of these processes. I think we should leverage some of those, like systems, and also establish a governance body for ensuring the algorithms are being built in the right fashion, especially if it's going to the public. And also, I think in this educational and industry platforms coming together. Definitely, it's a very welcome thing. We could definitely not just limit it to theoretical aspects. We should have sort of internships, across the two. And, AI startups generally try to move much faster than other private companies. So, enabling internships and, immersing in the startup ecosystem or building of the product, what are the issues that we'll get and what are the things to take care of. So some kind of a learning on the job aspect should be part of this COE of AI as well. And of course, when we talk about data, and again, Shrikant ji was talking about it, of course, there's a lot of data in the government institutions, hospitals, and so on. Pretty much, at least half of them are digitized, if not all. So I think having a framework where this can be shared in an appropriate manner to the right kind of experiments would be very, very important. And one last point on AI for all, particularly for healthcare, I want to talk about is when we do these pilots in government hospitals and institutions, rolling out what we call as real world testing, right? It's not just sufficient to download some data that's already cleaned up on Kaggle or some other website and then building models. That's what we see most startups doing it and saying, hey, I have 90% accuracy. But does this really work on real life kind of people where you don't know the answer, but you'll know the answer later, what we call as blinded studies, prospective studies, and so on? Does it really work on the field? Can simple health workers do these tests? So these things become very, very important before again we are rolling it out. And here I think government can release some budget and funds for enabling district level pilots. And once the district level pilot is successful, how the same thing can be rolled out to across districts. I think there a lot of scope for improvement. We have done almost like 14,000 screenings just in certain districts. And I mean, it just stays there. You have to go on doing free. And as a startup, you can't just keep on doing things free. So I think rolling out a successful pilot to rest of the district and making that process easy, of course, put all the quality checks in place, but that would really finally meet the end goal of using AI for the benefit of the population, right? While I want to hand over the mic to others, but I just want to have make two comments on the data governance aspect of it. Yes, we have to anonymize data, make it available to everybody. But what we talk about is not just consent to give data, right? People have to be informed about how the data will be used. So generic, integration of data and making all applications use it. I think we need to put some checks and balances around this because it can, every nice tool can have two sides of it, right? Can be misused as well. And so, yeah, we can integrate all of it in an anonymized way and enable only some people to use it and so on. But also some kind of research on how we can leave the data at different places, but still run an AI around it, right? Some kind of a distributed AI on encrypted data and so on can also be considered when we look at data governance platforms. So this is what I had to say. And again, congratulate the team and the government for thinking about these technology issues at the governance level. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta, and very, 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 very insightful comments and ideas, suggestions, concerns that you raise are very, very valid. And especially whenever we build AI-based solutions, whenever we deal with data, the issue of data privacy, the issue of data security, the issue of ethics, the issue of responsible AI comes to force. So in our national program on AI also, we have a huge vertical on responsible AI. And how do we ensure that technology which is there is used for larger social good and not for ways which can result in harm, if I can use the phrase, harm to the society. So that requires a very nuanced approach. And I'm sure with your experience, with your expertise, and with similar experts, we can dwell together and come out with a responsible AI framework, a responsible AI toolkit, which will ensure that solutions before they are scaled up, solutions before they are rolled out pan-India, we are able to take care of those concerns. So that would be very, very, very critical. So thank you, Dr. Geeta, for your very, very insightful comments. Last but not the least, I have Sarika Guliani, who is the director and head ICT FICCI. And Sarika is somebody who has been in this sector for a long time. She has been working very closely with industry, with government, and trying to support ICT initiatives for various applications, whether it's expanding the reach in digital inclusion, working with common service centers, or working on language technologies. And how do we ensure that language can be, should not be a bottleneck, but it should be enabler for getting more and more people onboarded onto e-services. So Sarika Guliani, she's the director and head ICT at FICCI. She looks after information technology and IT enabled services, mobile manufacturing and communications, digital economy, and FICCI Indian Language Interface Alliance division at FICCI. So Sarika has been a close colleague, I may say, when we work with industry partnerships. So look forward to hearing from Sarika with regard to what she makes out of this budget announcements, how leveraging technology, how ensuring data governance, how building up AI-based solutions, expanding the scope of DigiLocker can help in ease living, and what does the industry has to say, especially with regard to initiatives like Entity DigiLocker.
So thank you, Mr. Singh, and a very good afternoon to all of you. I would start that, first of all, a big compliments. I mean, I've been, as a representative from the chamber, I've been hearing since morning, and we have read the budget speech. So very, very big compliments to our Honorable Prime Minister, Finance Minister, and the Government of India for putting a very high focus on the technology. So since from a field of technology, we have been working in past decades, but this budget matches with the government's vision that next decade is going to be the decade. So we see that technology being the key enabler when you talk about any initiative. I was getting very thrilled when I was listening, though I was the last speaker in the panel, but I was very much thrilled to hear my co-colleagues who were talking about from the industry, how they feel the technology is going to help. I mean, either you start up with Nitin talking about in the financial services, how do you see the enlargement, especially with the new documents being added at the digilocker, how it's going to facilitate them, how it's going to really help them out to reach out to the people whom they're not able to do that, how they can scale up the businesses. And that is what the intent of the chamber or the government would be, that to get the digital inclusion happening at all point of time, and of course the businesses benefited. So and of course we talked about the AI part of it when Shrikant and Dr. Geeta did mention about the various aspects of it. So I would just like to put up a few pointers out here. Like if we talk about the ease of doing business. So the entity DigiLocker is, of course, a very, very strong step which has been taken up by the government, which has been announced, because it actually caters up the big startup and the MSME system which is there in our country. And if you talk about as a country like India, and if you talk about only in AI, we are third in the world. And overall in the startup ecosystem, we are growing in very large number. And we're talking about the unicorns getting available to us in every month, and we are having many unicorns coming over. So when you want to facilitate that, and you want these unicorns to live the life, so these initiatives are the ones which give them the life, and also it reaches to the people whom we belong to. So if you want to get the last mile, you want to you get the benefits of the services of the government to reach out to the last mile. These are the initiatives which are helping. So ease of doing business like this, using PAN as a common identifier, as a business identifier, it's again a very, very big initiative. I mean, if I talk about a single window system, which government is already working, and we have the different ministries aligning towards it, it is going to be a revolutionary step, because of course it eases the task for the businesses to work on. Or if you talk about for Nitin, I'm sure he will be very much excited, the simplified KYCs and the simplified the filing system. So these are very, very strong initiatives which has come from the ease of doing perspective, which we feel as a chamber would be really benefiting the businesses. How these can be implemented, definitely the government is building up the platforms, the things like the DigiLockers are being used as a foundational thing, the Aadhaars are being used at it. So all those things definitely would be there, and the businesses can contribute in the business partners can contribute to chambers and the academic institutes in providing the inputs. So one of the main important things which comes out and which technology provides is that the technology gives you the feedback in the real time. What our Honorable Prime Minister did mention in his inaugural speech, that especially if you talk about the karamyogi or you talk about any of those initiatives, it is just not the creation, it's just not the content, it's also the updation, it's a real-time feedback and improvisation. So you take it to the next level. So what India is right now looking at is not just using the technology for the development, but being a leader further in the development. So we are already a global powerhouse when you talk about the software side, and we are making many deep strides in the area of hardware sector. So what we would now want to become is that we lead the thing. Like, for example, if we talk about AI, you talked about the responsible AI. We have been working with the government on the responsible AI from FICCI's perspective. And we know that the India's mandate is just not to be the leader in AI, but we would like to highly propagate the responsible AI. So things like when you talk about in the digital inclusion, things like the Center of Excellence on AI, apart from forming these solutions to the various problems which can be there in the sectors which has been the primarily mentioned, be it the agriculture or the healthcare or the sustainable cities, I would say these COIs can be used as the centers of excellence for providing the right skill force which is required. So the innovation, the capacity building policy approach, these needs to be something which really the COI can look into it. I'm not going to be repetitive on the points which Shrikant and Dr. Geeta have mentioned, because we do understand that these things play an important role in it. So if I talk about the digital inclusion, I've already mentioned about things like CUI, or we did hear Akash Ambani ji talking about the 5G services, how the 100 labs which has been announced by the government in developing applications using 5G, and especially talking about the precision farming, intelligent transport system, or getting how the digital inclusion being done. So all those things give a very high focus on ease of doing business, digital inclusion, and of course the digital living. If I talk about ease of living, a very special focus on the digital payments. We have heard the inaugural speakers talking about how the digital payments overall has been growing in our country. The budget did itself mention that it's a 76% growth rate which is being there. So when we are looking at this digital payment, something which you, me, and the people sitting in the room or even outside the room immediately relate to it. When you talk to even a rickshaw bala, or if I talk to anybody who's even working in my house, that is something they immediately relate to it. So how the extra focus by the government on the digital payments is really a big step on the ease of living. And then, of course, the one-stop solution for updating your addresses and the identity. This is a very, very common problem, which a normal person, for me and you and the people in the room, may not be finding it as a very big problem, but for us and the businesses who are dealing with the people and the people who are working in the remotest corner, for them, they don't even understand how to go and get it done, and they're lost between the multiple agencies, there are multiple papers. So this is, of course, a very, very strong step which will help the building the good governance, and of course reaching the services to the from the government to the members. I'll also put a very specific focus on the language part. We did hear Shrikant did start about the multilingual part. So I would talk about that. We are a country of 1.4 billion population. And when we talk about, you did mention about the 874 million internet subscribers, which we are online. So if we talk about the next chunk, which is roughly around 450 million to 500 million, which is more than the population of United States. So that's an opportunity we were talking about, that how do we get them online? How technology can enable that something can happen. And there with the multilingual internet definitely plays a very, very strong role. We are a country with 22 official languages and 1,600 plus dialects. So when we talk about such a diversity, the diversity comes with a good opportunity, definitely with some challenges which we have to adhere together, but a very, very big opportunity. And we are thankful to the government for starting the initiatives of Bhashini and NLTM. And of course, Bhashini, which is an open source where the starters and MSMEs can develop the products in the local languages, but it is something which is very, very important. The focus of the multilingual internet is just not on the digital inclusion. Definitely that chunk comes into place. Shrikant did mention about the data being available in different languages. So what, as our FICCI also we aspire is that a person sitting in Himachal communicating somebody in Kerala, if in Punjabi, they are able to get the speech into the text, that can transfer to the internet in a very standard way, gets converted into a Malayalam, and the person in the Kerala can understand it. So the whole ecosystem is something which is very, very large. And we are, of course, working with government on as partners in the FICCI Indian Language Internet Alliance, which FICCI started in last 2017. And it's just not the content, it's just not the translation, it's the complete ecosystem which requires including the special focus on the multilingual internet of the universal acceptance. We are again want to compliment the government for starting the multilingual internet phase 1, where the high focus on the universal acceptance is being given, where we talk about international domain names and email address centralization as a first phase. We are working, of course, with the startups, with the I would say the technical people, the academicians, and of course the government and the industry to take this agenda forward, where we get the not only the content but the URLs, the IDNs and AI is also possible across the sector. So overall, so the multilingual internet and the government's focus in this area is very, very helpful. It's going to get the big boost on the digital inclusion, the digital empowerment and upliftment, create a new segments for the people in the businesses who are looking to reach out to those people who cannot understand English or not able to consume content in the respective the languages is currently available. Also, it will cater new business opportunities. It will of course give us new employment opportunities, and definitely it helps to preserve the culture. So the government's focus on the technology in these areas, and we did hear in the inaugural about the Supreme Court order, when the orders are going to be now in vernacular languages. So these are a very, very welcome step. So the composition of the technology and the same applications across various domains, including the language, it's going to be a very, very game changer when you talk about India going forward as into the decade, with the help of the technology being the key enabler for strengthening the digital spine of our country.
Thank you, Sarika, for your very comprehensive views, and especially I fully agree with you. The language technologies has a great potential to transform the way we access services and all. So thank you all. Thank you for your comments, and it was really, really insightful and detailed, especially with regard to leveraging technology for ease of living. So now we head into the Q&A, but I believe Pankaj has a prior engagement and he wants to leave early. So Pankaj, would you like to respond to any of the ideas that have been shared by the other panelists before you kind of exit?
No, thank you so much. I think I love what Nitin said. So Nitin, you must know our chairman, Ramadurai for Karamyogi Bharat was also listening and appreciated the thoughts you put together and how it is going to be integrated with the government systems. Same with Shrikant, the thoughts that you triggered around the AI. And Geeta, what you are doing is fabulous. I lost my co-founder 2 years ago to breast cancer. So I can't tell you how important this subject is and what you're doing. Thank you for doing that. And thank you, Sarika ji. So all the best, Abhishek and team. I hope that Karamyogi Bharat will be able to add a lot of value to civil servants, and what Prime Minister said will bring in ease of technology. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I had informed Abhishek earlier, so please pardon my. Thank you. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pankaj, for being here, and it was really a pleasure to listen to you. So as we head into the Q&A, I think the Q&A is activated in the main room. So by the time the team sends the questions, but we have heard from all the panelists and a lot of ideas, a lot of suggestions. So any quick comments, Nitin or Shrikant or Dr. Geeta, with regard to what are we looking at, especially language-enabled technologies and especially voice-enabled services that's going to become a reality, integration with ChatGPT. So do you see an expansion of services, especially in the financial sector and the health sector, that can enable ease of living for citizens, and what is possible? Something.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, this whole, when it comes to money, unfortunately, we are not taught finance in schools and colleges. So so a lot of the financial products out there are can be inundating. So I'm for sure that if all of this data was available, the advisory network, can grow in this country, which hasn't until now. Also, the other bit which you said, which was mentioned in your presentation around just the ability to be able to quickly update your, like personal details across the board. Today is almost impossible. I might have 4 bank accounts. I don't know how many insurance policies. I don't know how many mutual fund folios. Every time there is a change in my address today, I mean, I won't go and update it, right? Because, but you want citizens of the country to be actively updating their KYC. So, it remains updated. So this whole ability to update it at one level, which is at the digilocker level, and then that in turn propagating to across all financial services products. Now, I think that solves for a mega pain point. But, there are a couple of things, Abhishek, I wanted to ask you one was around, just centralizing all of this data, isn't that like a, like a large security risk? And how is, I know, how are you thinking about that? So,
Well, just to address that before I go to Shrikant, we are not centralizing any data. Like DigiLocker doesn't bring any data into any centralized database. It works on the federated architecture model in which the data resides with the data owner. In the sense that if CBSE is showing mark sheets or certificates, the certificates reside on the CBSE servers only. We only pull it when the citizen wants to access it based on the request, and then the construct is there. Similarly, driving licenses remain in the driving license, the transport department's databases. Bank accounts details, bank credentials will remain in the SBI's or the bank accounts servers or wherever they have. Whenever a citizen wants to access his own record, that record is pulled from there and made accessible on his. So there's no centralization of data in any form, because we know that it's a big risk and it can cause havoc, and nobody will try to attempt that in today's world. And technology does allow API based sharing of data in this format, and that's how verification happens, that's how authentication happens. So that's the model that is that we have taken with regard to DigiLocker and pulling in.
Yeah, that's very nice to hear. And but some of what, the future plans will probably cannibalize some of what account aggregator is planning to do as well, right? As in, or do you see these two working separately?
See, we do feel that we can work together, and there are integrator framework has taken off. A lot of banks are already part of it, and they are sharing information. So DigiLocker also has similar functionalities, but yes, we can complement what account aggregator is doing. In fact, DigiLocker can become a FIP, can become like a financial information provider in the account aggregator framework, so that any information that is available in DigiLocker, and DigiLocker has information plus, like the very often we do address proof verification. So that's something that's a very important thing for various kind of services. So that can also be brought in. So we are in discussions with RBI and Ministry of Finance with regard to how we can work together with the account aggregators framework, how we can strengthen it. And ultimately the intent is to unlock value with those who are, because we do have banks and financial institutions who are wanting to give credit, and there are people who want to take credit. How do we kind of integrate the two while ensuring that those who need credit are able to access that and repay? And that's how value will be created. So that's the problem we are together wanting to solve. And hopefully with this entire digital backbone that we have built in, the amount of information, the data DigiLocker has access to, that can enable especially those individuals and businesses who are wanting to access financial services. And credit is one, insurance will be the next. Sarika, about digital payments. So digital payments, of course, we are very gung-ho and we say that a lot of digital payments is happening in India. But how do we move beyond bank accounts, digital payments, and ensure that we bring in other value-added services, especially credit, investments, insurance, and that's how we'll kind of ensure the real benefits of digital technologies reach to each one and everyone.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Shrikant, would you like to add something?
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. I think two things. I think Prime Minister said in the very beginning that technology is a solution to many of our problems, right? Given the scale and scope of our country, tech is not just a good to have, it is absolutely the only way in which we can solve such problems at such scale. Secondly, the finance minister said in that video and in the budget speech that make AI in India and make AI work for India. So if you think of that and think of how do we leverage these two statements in the way we have to solve problems for India, number one is certainly whenever a citizen sort of has anything to do with the government, we have to make it very, very easy. And I think there's a lot of things that have come into place in the last few years, which I think are making that happen. The second thing we have to think of, in my opinion, is to think of the day in the life of an ordinary citizen. What are they doing and how can we make each of those things easier? For example, I might want to commute to work. And Google Maps today makes it very easy to use a Google Map application. And it's obviously an application of AI, but we can make, I know there are some collaborations to make this even richer so that the maps is much more. All the public buildings, for example, in the city of Mumbai where I live, are now, there's a good collaboration happening between Google and the city so that every building is marked the right way, right? And the public buildings and so on. So a lot of data is coming from the government to enrich the user experience of using Google Maps. When I take a loan, Is it easy for me to, for example, we have talked about some KYC related topics here, but is it very easy for me to get a loan from a bank? Is it very easy for me to get a new insurance policy? And how painful is it for me to get access to healthcare? Maybe what we have to do is to take a look at the day in the life of an ordinary citizen. And this is not normally the government's job to ensure the private, this private services the government that a citizen is availing of are smooth. But I think government has a very interesting opportunity to make this tech enabled through the identity, through KYC, through the digilocker, through all the various systems that we have, and through enabling intelligence on all of these. I think we can make the life very easy. And this is actually will be quite breakthrough compared to any other country in the world, because frankly, no other country has cracked it, certainly not at this scale, right? So therefore, I think this is where I think we can pivot the use of AI. So when you say AI, make AI work for India, let's look at the uniquely India problems and that other countries may not even be researching on. For example, multiple languages, the kind of language challenges we have are unique to India. So make those things, take those as a sort of constraints in how we are putting our resources to work, our investments to work, whether and make AI work for India in that sense. So those are my thoughts, additional thoughts on what I already said.
Great, very nice. Make AI work for India. That's like there in the budget speech, but makes so much of sense. Like, how do we ensure that? And the other day, somebody was telling me that if we can put data of traffic lights, speed breakers, something on a public domain, then somebody who's building a 10-minute delivery service can use it so much for building that. Dr. Geeta, before we go on to, I think two people have raised their hands. Dr. Geeta, any thoughts with regard to data for healthcare that would be easily accessible, shareable?
Yeah, so more than the data for healthcare, I really want to go back to the AI, make AI work for India aspect. Shrikant brought that up again. So again, if I have to leave 3 points, right? One is governance, and then what we can call as last mile of making it happen, making AI work for India. Last mile of it is, how do we actually roll out working AI models, which for example, in our case, it's approved in US, Europe, Philippines, everywhere. We have been installed in so many private hospitals, and it's so difficult to get this going in a government setting. Why? And so I just want to I think we need to simplify the process of rolling out, right? Definitely we have to put governance in place. Is it really worth sending out? I'm not saying we should cut corners, right? Definitely it has to be worth going in. Second is we should definitely have a real world pilot program, and we should do test in a smaller setting, real world setting. But we really have to have a path to scale. I mean, this is, I think, very, very critical. Otherwise, everything we spend so much effort, and most of the work will be in academics and probably publishings, but at the end of the day, it has to work for India. I would really, urge again on these 3 points, and yeah, happy to take other questions.
Yes, fully agree with what you just said. So we are almost to the end of the webinar, but we have a few questions. Few people have raised their hands. So Mr. Hitesh Saini, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question? Hitesh Saini?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, Hitesh.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, sir. I just want to talk about the another pillar of economy, which is insurance, and we are working on the insurance sector since a very long time. So there are a lot of government schemes and policies where people are covered under multiple schemes. But how we can use the digilocker and technology to pull up those details and help people to get the claims on those particular services? Because while working in the sector, we have seen that people are not getting the benefits because they are not aware about the schemes under which they are covered, or even the institutions who are providing the services, they are not aware about how to help them in getting those claims. So what are your inputs on that?
See, with regard to schemes, this was a problem that many people had highlighted, and what our Honorable Prime Minister launched in July of last year was a portal called myscheme.gov.in, because various government departments implement a lot of schemes, and sometimes the beneficiaries for whom those schemes are meant for, they themselves are not aware which portal to go and which website to go or which app to download. So to solve this problem, myscheme.gov.in was built in, has been launched. It's already live, wherein you just go and you enter your profile, where you are from, your age, your date, your age, your gender, your economic status, if you're disabled, or any other basic demographic profiles. You basically enter the basic data, and based on them, the system will tell you that you might be eligible for how many schemes of various departments. And so that scheme discovery, and then you can filter it through various filters, and then select the scheme that you want to apply for, apply it there only online, and then you're able to track the service delivery also. That's the whole model on which my scheme has been designed. So that's one way of solving that. Insurance companies, most of them are already integrated on DigiLocker. Insurance documents are already available. And for claim settlement, yes, if we have to look for claim settlement, if there are any other documents to be verified, then that integration can happen. Like with Ayushman Bharat Health Mission coming in, and with electronic health records becoming a part of Health Locker on the DigiLocker. Again, it can mean a lot for claim settlements, faster claim settlements, wherein the insurance companies will be able to verify the documents which are being issued by hospitals and doctors. So maybe that way it can address that issue. We also have Mr. Venkat Raghavan, who has asked a question. Can we have Mr. Venkat Raghavan, please?
Yeah. Hello, this is Venkat. I am from IIT Madras. I just want to have one small clarification. See, a couple of years back, we were talking about India 2 architecture, INDEA 2 architecture. In that there was this digital ID, which was supposed to, synchronize between multiple IDs that we have. We have the election card, we have the Aadhaar card, we have the PAN card, we have the driving license, so on and so forth. None of them are actually synchronized. The addresses are not synchronized. The first name, second name fields are not synchronized. I mean, these were all not when they were implemented, when they were introduced. So we never had an idea that all these things would need to be integrated at one point of time. So, but we some 2 years back, I think MeitY had thought about this issue, and then also wanted to solve this issue, and wherein they thought about something like a digital ID, common digital ID, which will just be used to synchronize multiple discrepancies. I mean, overcome the discrepancies. What is it? What is the status of it? Are we looking at it in the India 2 architecture, or what is the state of India 2 architecture?
The India 2 architecture, the India Digital Ecosystem Architecture addresses this issue, and that has become like one of the work that has been done as the India 2.0, and the discussions and the interactions and the consultation that we had done with industry and other stakeholders led to the status wherein for ID, it is now being agreed that Aadhaar is going to be the foundational ID, and any other ID, any other system which wants to build an ID will be based on Aadhaar as the foundational ID. So for example, if agriculture has to give an ID to farmers, the core will go to that. Similarly, in health, Aadhaar account numbers which are being made will go back on that. So while it will be consent based, it will not be mandatory to give Aadhaar for any such service, but it will be an option that's available for those who want to do that. So using Aadhaar as a foundational ID, every other service is being built in, which was mentioned in the India 2.0 report also, as you rightly said.
Right, but one thing, if I can add a little more. So there is this principle of purpose limitation that was being brought out by everyone when they said that why we cannot use this Aadhaar for that or this or something. I mean, I don't know. There are some legislative things
Aadhaar has UID authority
has.
If you go to the very website of UID authority, they have come out with a framework in which if a citizen wants to share his use his Aadhaar for accessing multiple services, he can.
All right. So anyway, thanks for the
thank you. So maybe we are already off time, and the closing plenary will start at 2 o'clock. So maybe one last question, Mr. Irana Rajshekara.
Yes, sir. So actually, just I want a simple question. That is, using all this ease of living, using technologies, whatever new technologies we are applying. So whether unemployment problem will come or not. Because everything will be easy and everything will be automized. In that case, unemployment problem will increase.
Agreed. That's a very, very important issue, important question. And whenever we talk of artificial intelligence, we always look into what will the future of work will be. And with that in mind, there is a whole program of reskilling, upskilling, ensuring that we are able to train people with the right skill sets, which help them leverage the jobs that will come in the data economy, in the AI economy. So we have a program called Future Prime Skills that we run in partnership with industry, with NASSCOM, wherein there are a lot of courses which are available on an online platform, which is helping people to acquire new age skills, ensuring that they remain employable and ensuring that they are able to contribute to the digital economy. India is a huge service provider. We are regarded the garage, the tech garage of the world, and in future we can be the AI garage of the world. So all that we need to do is that ensure that we move forward on the issue of skilling and upskilling, and ensure that the issue of employment, which you just mentioned, can be tackled. So we are almost end of time. So Sarika, you wanted to add something?
Yes, Mr. Singh, I wanted to talk about the scaling part only, but you did mention, so I would just say that because I was hearing the co-panelists talking about it. So the COE on AI, while we talk about it, and Shrikant and everybody did mention that we need to take the real-time problems of our country, which is more specific to our country, be it in the language domain, or you talk about the sector where the AI was going to play an important role. It is very, very important that we develop the training programs also, which is not generic, which can be, in any case, are being done in the various other initiatives, but very specific to the need of our country, so that we have the sector-based required skill force available for them. So I would say the innovation policy and the capacity building very specific to our country, where we talk about the concept of make AI in India and make AI work for India. And then I would also say, like we are talking about Aadhaar and the CoWIN and the UPI being talked to the other nations, we can have it the same thing, which we can develop it for our country specifically to being exported, or I would say shared with the countries which share the similar or kind of suitable problems with. So something the COI should not only be limited to, I would say, the broader, but in a very deep thing in where we take out the real-time problems, which we have discussed during the panel, and there are many which would come over, and we develop specific, do the innovation as well as develop the capacity building very specific to that need, be it through the training program or forming any certification course, and then also make it India as a hub where we are not only using it for our country, but also being able to share it, say, with the African countries or the South Asian countries, the others. The way we take the privilege of talking about Aadhaar and CoWIN and the of course the UPI, the digital payments. So my aim would be like we use the technology to develop country, do the socio-economic growth, but also help in the talking about the country when exporting the technology, in that sense, the AI technology with the countries which have similar needs. So something that I wanted to add in with respect to skilling and upskilling. And of course, the language thing we have already talked about. So since a short of time, I'll not add much to that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarika. And with this, we come to the end of the session. And I must thank all the panelists, Shrikant, Dr. Geeta, Nitin, Pankaj, Sarika, for joining it. We had a very engaging discussion. In fact, there are some thoughts going in my mind. One can continue it longer, but I am sure we will connect with you after this panel also. And those who had joined, who had questions, who could not ask, please feel free to write to us, and we will definitely take your inputs, take your suggestions. In fact, we also have on MyGov discussion forum going on, wherein citizens can also give their ideas with regard to in what ways we can use technology for enabling ease of living. So those suggestions are most welcome. This is something which is not a one-off thing. It's a continuing thing. In the whole year, we have to implement the budget implementations and go further in order to how we can use technology for improving governance, for improving the interface citizens have with government, and reducing the kind of hardship that people may face, and add value-added services. So thank you all panelists once again. We had a very engaging discussion. We will be reconvening at 2 o'clock for the closing plenary, in which all the 4 breakout sessions, there will be short presentations with regard to what was discussed, and we'll also have honorable ministers who will be present there today. Minister of Electronics and IT will be there, and Minister of State from DOPT, from Telecom. So those ministers from law, those will be present, who will also be sharing their insights with regard to how we will take forward this discussion. And once again, thank you all of you for giving your time. It was really a engaging discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you all.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.